Hi, BookTube. It's Gina. Happy Wednesday. How are you? Hope you're doing well. It is the middle of March, and I thought I'd do a mid-month March middle grade and March Mystery Madness wrap-up. All right, that's really fun to say, but basically, I just want to check in with you on my reading so far. I'm, of course, reading for March Mystery Madness and middle grade March. Lots of M's. And I talked about some of the books that I've finished already, but I thought I'd just kind of do a middle of the month check-in and show you what I've been reading so far. So let's just jump right in. Here's my stack of books. I have read 7 books so far. 2 of them are on my Kindle. So let's go ahead and start with those 2. The first is Nemesis, which is an Agatha Christie, and it is a companion to a Caribbean mystery, which these 2 have some shared characters, which was a ton of fun. So I've read those 2 for March Mystery Madness. Nemesis was on my Kindle. I think I already said that. I'm having one of those days today. Also on my Kindle, which I just finished last night, is Listen Slowly. This is a middle grade book. I read this one for the set in Asia or with an Asian main character, or I think even an Asian author, of which this book met all 3 of those prompts. It was about a 12-year-old girl from Laguna Beach, California, whose parents send her to Vietnam with her grandmother to search for some information about her grandfather, who was killed during the war. And unfortunately, I didn't love this book. I didn't really care for the main character all that much, and I didn't really care for the way that she was written. She clearly did not want to go to Vietnam, which was fine. It had a really sweet ending, but the majority of her trip to Vietnam was her pretty much every page saying, I want to go home. I don't want to be here. How can I go home? How can we speed this up? And it just kind of got to a point where, and it was in the first person, so it was very much inside her head, and I just didn't really care for it. I can see why people enjoyed it. It was a very sweet story, but it was probably, I would say, 2.5 stars for me. That was also on my Kindle. Next, let's talk about Murder in an Irish Bookshop by Carleen O'Connor. And I love this one. This is such a beautiful cover. This actually was set in Ireland, of course, Murder in an Irish Bookshop. And Carleen O'Connor is an Irish American author. I think she is bi-coastal. She bounces back and forth between Ireland and the U.S. And this was a fun, cozy mystery about a murder in a bookshop. It was pretty standard stuff. Nothing about it jumped out at me. I'd say 2.5 to 3 star range. A lot of fun. I solved the mystery. I thought it was pretty obvious at some point who the murderer was. There were a few plot holes and some things that I thought just didn't come together in a very satisfying way. But this I will continue probably with this series if I pop across the books. This was number, I think, 6 or 7 in the series, so there's probably some spoilers as far as relationships and storyline goes that I think would have been better starting at the beginning. But this overall was an enjoyable read. I liked it, would recommend. Didn't love it, but it was good. Next, I've got 3 middle grade books, and all 3 of these I loved. Look at this. I just love the pink stack. First is Daddy Longlegs, which I have talked about before. Oh, I forgot, you guys. Wait, hold on one second. Hold on. Here we go. Forgot to grab this one because this is one that I also had bought in one of my recent vintage hauls. I found this beautiful, I wish I should take this plastic off, but I like it because of course it protects the cover. But I found this at one of my favorite used bookstores, and I love this edition. I think it's just gorgeous. This is a Grosset and Dunlap. I read it in this paperback, and I also I tried to read it on my Kindle, but the Kindle edition that I had, it was a free copy. It alerted me that there were some quality issues, so I knew going into it. But I realized that this book has some super cute illustrations that Judy, the person who is writing these letters, draws, and they're integral to the story in some sense, and so you really want an edition that's got the pictures. I forgot to say that this is a story of an orphan. So this meets the orphan prompt for middle grade March. And she's an orphan. My brain is I am all over the place today. Judy, an orphan who is 17 going on 18. She's getting ready to age out of being able to be in the orphanage, and gets an offer from an unknown benefactor to pay for her to go to college. So she's a quite naive, young-ish 17, 18-year-old who goes to college, learns a lot, and of course there is a little bit of a romance, and it's just it's a really sweet story. I really enjoyed it. So that I read for middle grade March. Next, I read The Family from One End Street by Eve Garnett. This is a wonderful story. I absolutely loved this, of a lower income family in they live on One End Street. I can't remember what country this is set in. Is it English? I don't remember. Or I'm not sure if it actually says. I should have looked it up a little bit better. But anyway, this is a lower income family, working class family, 7 kids. The father is a trash collector. The mother does laundry, and it's a super sweet story. It's a little bit episodic, which I don't care for as much. I don't like the short story. I don't really care for short stories, and I don't care for episodic formats as much. So this really started out as each of the kids had their own chapter that told a little bit of a story, which I loved, but it felt a little disjointed to me, but I still absolutely loved this book. Just hearing about the kids' adventures and their families' challenges to just kind of make ends meet. They never complain or feel like they're poor. They just live and have a fun time. I loved this book. And then next, and is this last? Yeah, this is last. I've finished Matilda by Roald Dahl. This was a reread for me, and I've also seen the movie and loved it. And I love the Quentin Blake illustrations in this. Just so I think they're so cute. And I loved this. I think everybody probably already knows the premise of Matilda, but she is a young girl whose parents she's very intelligent. She's maybe possibly got some magical powers. Her parents are crass and don't read and mean to her and treat her quite badly. And she pulls one over on them and on others in the story, and it's a wonderful, sweet, but a little bit. I think Roald Dahl is a really fun kids writer because he's so he understands. It seems like he understands kids so well. He's a little bit gruesome is not necessarily the word. I think I read the first paragraph in this book before, but I'm just going to read it again because it's so perfect. It starts with the reader of books, and it says, "It's a funny thing about mothers and fathers, even when their own child is the most disgusting little blister you could ever imagine, they still think that he or she is wonderful." And I love that tone in this book. I think it's so funny and appropriate. Did I say I've watched the movie? And I enjoy the movie also. And then lastly, I want to just talk about a couple videos that I've recently watched on Middle Grade March by Jack at Spread Book Joy, because she just did a 2-video series on why adults read middle grade, and it's fantastic. Definitely go check out those videos. I will link them below, and I will end this video with a paragraph that I found last month in Bookworm, a memoir of childhood reading by Lucy Mangan. And the book is wonderful if you love middle grade, and she's a British writer. And so she read a lot of British books, and I didn't actually read a lot of those as a kid, but I've been reading a lot of them as an adult. And she talks about the joys of reading as a child, sort of versus reading as an adult. And I love this sentence or this paragraph because I think it's just exemplifies why we search for that feeling that we had as a kid of and why we love reading middle grade as an adult. So she says, "I do not get absorbed as easily or as fully. I am more pernickety. Where once any book would have done, I now frequently have to try to find one that suits. The joy, once guaranteed simply by opening a cover, is now more elusive. As an adult, your tastes and or prejudices are more developed and particular. Your time is more precious and your critical faculties harder to switch off. As an adult, worries are greater." I don't agree with that sentence. "And it takes a more powerful page to be able to banish them for the duration. Perhaps you appreciate it all the more when it comes, but I miss the days of effortless immersion and the glorious certainty of pleasure." I love that last sentence, the glorious certainty of pleasure, because that, I think, was how I read when I was a kid reading kids' books. And I think that is a lot of what I find still when I read middle grade, the glorious certainty of pleasure for the most part. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.